Hello everybody and welcome to your second tutorial on learning how to program using the C programming language. So now I assume that you've either downloaded IDE or you're using a text editor or something, or using Terminal or whatever in Linux or Mac. So if you're using IDE, what you'd want to do is you want to create a new project. And if you're using a text editor, then this doesn't really apply to you. Just please bear with me. So what you'd want to do is create a Win32 application, and you can name it whatever you want. I'll name this YouTube C series or something like that, and you click OK if you're using Visual Studio. If you're using Coblox or something, you can select which language you're using or whatever. But you just click next and click empty project if you're using Visual Studio. Make sure console application is selected and click finish. I'm using Visual Studio 2012, by the way. Any version of Visual Studio should be fine, right? Just make sure you're using a console window. A console window, we do stuff in the console window just to get the gist of how the language works. If you want to get into graphics and stuff, then that's later on. You have to learn the whole language in and out first before you can get into that stuff. So if you're using a text editor, then you have to save the file name as whatever .c. Okay? So the general naming scheme, so what you want to do is you want to go to source files, right click that and click add new item, and you want to highlight over CPP file. Now we don't want a CPP file because a CPP file is a C++ file. We're programming in C, not C++. So the general file name, we'll name it as main, but you can name it anything you want, right? So I'm going to name it main, but put .c. So that lets us know that it is a C programming file, and I'll add it in, and then now we can start programming. Okay, so then now we're going to just put in some stuff for code, and I'm going to be explaining the significance of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the sharp key, and we're going to put include. We'll have the left stream operator, and we'll put stdio.h and close it with the right stream operator. So what is this right now? This right here is a preprocessor, like a preprocessor directive. So what this does is that in the C programming language, if you've ever used, say, Turing or any other type of language, some of them, they have all the functionality built into it. In the C programming language, we only want to include what we're actually using, and this is why we use the include symbol or include hashtag or whatever, right? So programming, the way the computer works is that the computer reads things in binary between ones and zeros, right? I'm not going to get into binary math or how binary numbers work, but it reads things as on and off switches. What a programming language does is that it takes human readable code, and when you compile it, it changes it into machine code. That is what a compiler does. So basically think of this as they try to incorporate it as like regular English type words in order to help us remember things and do stuff easier. So what this is saying right now is saying include. STD stands for standard, not for you dirty-minded people out there, but STD stands for standard, and I stands for input, O stands for output, okay? So this is saying include the standard input output library. So right here is including a library, and the syntax to include it is like so. Now the .h stands for a header file. Now we will be learning about header files much later on, but for now, just note that the library files are normally stored in header files, okay? So now we gotta do our main function, okay? So we're not gonna learn about functions for a while. Maybe at tutorial like 15 to 20, we'll be learning about functions, right? But what a function is that it's kind of as a group of instructions or whatever. It groups a bunch of instructions into one name, right? But I don't want to confuse you guys about what a function is. So if we look at main right here, main is a special function within the C programming language that another function cannot have the same name. It cannot be named main. It's a special function, and whenever you have a function named main, everything within the program runs through the main function. Everything, right? So whenever you write something to the screen, whether you're doing a graphics game or whatever, a graphics programming, you want to draw play to the screen, everything runs through main, right? Even if you run a function through main and the function is even declared outside of main, in order for you to run that function, you have to call that function or call anything within main. So main is a special function, and that should be that you should remember that, and that's why mainly we named this source file main .c to let us know that this is where where our main program is, where everything runs through. Okay, so because our main function is of an integer type, we have to return an integer type. Now, main should be an integer type, not any other type, but should remain an integer. And when we learn about different types, you might say, why can't it be a double, float, whatever, whatever. The correct naming scheme for a main will be an integer type. So, whenever you make the main function, do int main, two parentheses, and we have our braces. Now, what do the braces stand for? The braces are like, if you've ever program in another language which has, like, I don't know, like start and end blocks or whatever, you'll have like if and then you'll have end if. These braces, these curly braces, start for the start, represent the start of the function, and this represents the end of the function. Okay, so anything within these braces are within that function itself. Okay, so remember that. So this is the start of the main function, and this is the end of the main function. So let us let's learn a new function quickly before we do something, because it's always fun to write something to the console window as a first tutorial or whatever. So the general always every single program, like whenever you start off, they start you off by printing off hello world. That's just a general thing that every programmer starts off by doing, so we're gonna do that. So we're gonna say printf hello world. Now printf is a function where we put quote in quotation marks, we put in whatever where we want to type in, and then it will type that to the console window. Okay, so that is going to be our program, and we're going to be learning much more about the printf function in following tutorials, but just to give you an overview of how a C program flows. So what's going to happen is that this is going to include our library, and then it's going to go to main, it's going to print this to the screen, and when it hits return 0, then that means the main function has ended. Okay, so if you're using Visual Studio, what I would advise you to do is click Control F5 to run it. If you're using Coblox, click F9 to run it, but it might open and close quickly. If that happens, then there's some stuff you can do, like for example, you can just put getch there or something. If you're using the terminal window or something, you don't have to worry about this. But we're going to run this by clicking Control F5. If we click F5 alone, it's going to open and close too quickly. What it's going to do is print this to the screen. It's going to return 0, letting us know the main function ends, and then it thinks the whole program ends, so we'll close the window, which is not what we want. So we're going to click Control F5, and we're going to run this. And if you're in the terminal, then I believe you click to run it. You'd put cc space and the name of your file or wherever the location is, the file .c, and then you'd run it. And if you're on and then you run it by, the file name should come out as a.out, and all you have to type in is a.out, and it will run the program in your terminal window. So if you're using Mac or Linux or whatever and you're using terminal, then you can run it either way. So all we have to do is just wait for this to build and compile, and then we should see the result on the screen. So So as we see, it says hello world with exclamation mark, and it prompts us if we want to continue. I just have to click enter. That is it for this tutorial. We never really learned much. It's just a quick overview on how the flow of the general program works, and in the next tutorial we will discover more about the printf function, what it can do, etc., and then we'll go on from there. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and bye.